Welcome to the Empowering Choices podcast. My name is Joshua.
I am Lucas.
And I'm Eric.
Lucas and Erik are licensed professional counselors, and today we are exploring helplessness.
What license does Indy have to be here?
I don't know.
He's down here kind of by the window. I don't know if you can see him. Oh, no, you can see him in my camera. He's behind my right arm.
Tracking the squirrel out there. He has noticed they're there, and he is intently looking at them like, see here, we're on the move. He may jump at the window or bark a little bit during this episode.
You are really intent there, Pooch.
Yep.
That's really funny. Yeah,
he loves to kind of chase squirrels when he can.
Apologies for the dog distraction, but I think those of you in the audience understand. Yep. Hi, Andy. Yes. Hello. So you wanted to start, Eric, our discussion here with some definitions.
Yeah, let's talk about the definition of helplessness.
Helplessness. So the first definition that I run across is the state of being helpless.
Wow.
I know, right?
Very
Don't
helpful.
you love dictionary? Like, I don't even know if that's useful. Like, why? Why? I feel like there's some helplessness going on just in that definition. And then the state of needing help from something. Helplessness. I don't think that's a good definition. I don't like that one.
Not really helpful in a way.
It's not helpful.
Yeah.
We're terrible. A feeling of inadequacy or impotence. That is definitely much more in the direction of what we are going here. So what was it that, like, I'm pretty sure that, because I know that the stories in our little outline here, Eric, are from you. Mm-hmm. What makes us think that helplessness is a topic we need to talk about to parents?
What did you also say you found a lot of?
Oh, if you Google helplessness, you get a lot of articles on learned helplessness.
Learned helplessness. This is why this becomes very important to parenting. In a lot of the parenting material that's out there right now, it says, listen, your kids will just figure it out. Just let them go and they will figure out how to get raised. The problem is what they do figure out is how to work you as parents and how to work you as parents so that they have less work. Because
is that learned helplessness or is that like... I don't know if that's identical.
It works into learned helplessness because you learn how to not do things on your own and that you can get the other people in your life to do it for you, which therefore you then learn you can't do it and then you become helpless.
I feel like there's like something additional to the dynamic you're describing on top of learned helplessness.
Okay.
That would be, let's see, what would that maybe be? Might be like codependence. It might be like angling for the other person to enable you.
Doesn't have to be codependence, but it can turn out in codependence.
Well, the description I like of codependence was the one that one of my coworkers gave when I was at the state hospital. His description was doing something for someone else that they can or should be doing for themselves.
Well, that's not codependence, though, because codependence is much deeper than just that, but that is in codependency.
That's the definition I remember.
Honestly, that's a really good definition for helping someone become independent. Because as a parent, you're trying to help your children become more and more and more independent because one day they're going to be independent of you while interdependent within the society that they're in, the family that they have, the new family that they have. So there's a lot of independent pieces that have to take care of itself as you're raising your kids.
So the definition we have here from Psychology Today on learned helplessness is it says it occurs when an individual continuously faces a negative, uncontrollable situation and stops trying to change their circumstances, even when they have the ability to do so. So they're definitely building an entire picture that says learned helplessness is built from the continual facing of a negative, uncontrollable situation.
Yes.
So, I mean, and I know like
now we're going to fill in the blanks, but yeah.
Well, there's like the B.F. Skinner experiments where like, you shock a dog in a box and it eventually gives up.
Right.
That's the real like classical experimental definition that I can think of.
So like in layman's terms, just as that was a lot of...
were there big words in there, Josh?
Big words in there. We're talking about like, say that a kid, obviously when they start out, they don't know how to tie their shoes. And so as an adult, you're going to tie their shoes. As they get older, They could become capable of tying their shoes. However, they just come and throw their shoe in front of you on their foot and look at you. And then as the parent, you just keep tying their shoe.
That is the very practical problem that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm not sure if learned helplessness is quite the right words there.
Description of that.
But I mean, that's the example.
It's headed that
and trying to avoid that so that the kid at the appropriate moment goes, oh, I actually can do this. And then they can do it.
Well, and in your example, there was at least 2 things I could think of that were things that the individual could and should be doing that as parents you want to teach them to do.
Right.
Because you said that this hypothetical adult who won't tie their shoes throws the shoe in front of you and expects you to do it.
Yeah.
They didn't ask. They didn't use words. They didn't communicate, right? So even for like the small children that I have in my house, they can't always put on their shoes. Right. But if they need something, I'm cueing them and teaching them and training them to say, help.
Yeah.
Even my 1-year-old, right?
Right.
Help. Right. She can enunciate that word when it's like, if you're facing a problem and you need something, say help.
Yeah.
When I'm
Step
in
1.
the playroom and I have a child who's struggling
as a therapist with a client.
In there, and the child is struggling to open something, attach something, dress something, work with something, rather than just step in and do it,
right?
I will simply say, let me know if you want me to help.
Sure.
And regardless of age, a lot of times, most of the time, they will work with it on their own, and then they will say, can you do this? Can you help me with this? Can you assist me? And so learned helplessness is the individual who never learns how to be able to do or say those things. They don't have the confidence that they can take care of something in their life, like tying shoes. So it becomes difficult. The resistance is there. Tying my shoes, learning how to tie my shoes. I remember those better part of the 2 days that my dad had me. And the first part, it was horrible. I hated it. I'm like, the bunny's going where,
right,
when,
you make the
how?
bunny ears, and the bunny goes around the hill, and then in the hole.
I'm like, I just want a bunny, just not. Why are we talking about bunnies? And I was very resistant because, this was tough. This was a difficult thing. And the second part of the second day was just practice for how the bunny goes. I didn't like bunnies for a while after that. But like with my son, one thing that I noticed, because he has some physical deformities inside and outside his body due to fetal drug effect. He's a family member of my wife's family that we adopted when he was a very young age. And so his left hand, it doesn't have the contours that a human hand has, or his right hand. And it's much more straight and stiff. And it actually has 20 pounds of pressure less that it can grip than his left hand. Yeah. And so one day he was, he loves chocolate milk, and he loves the bottle of chocolate milk. And he was trying to open it, and he's like, I can't do it.
He's approximately what age?
We're going to say probably about 6.
Sure.
And so then, we were with family, and his family just rushed over there. Oh, what can we do? How can we do this? Oh, we can get this. We'll open this for you. And I'm going, oh my gosh. This boy's never going to be able to open chocolate milk for the rest of his life. And I'm like, no, he's got to work with that to gain that independence, right, and gain that strength. And so I'm like,
or figure out how to use vice grips,
or figure out how to customize something like vice grips. And he hadn't thought about that at the time. So one day
you wanted to see what his natural abilities were before trying to adapt anything.
Exactly. One day we are out, my wife, my son, and I were running errands, doing something, and I'm like, hey, we need to go to the store. And she's like, well, what do you want to go to the store for? Well, we need to get drinks. And she goes, okay. I'm like, I have a plan.
But we're
Yeah.
here.
Yep, I've got something here. And so we went to the store, and I went in, got the drinks, came back out, handed my son back the chocolate milk bottle, and so we're driving down the road, and I'm just sitting there waiting. I'm
The
like,
Cheshire cat
I
just
am.
hanging
I
out
was
on
like,
the branch, man.
I'm waiting. Here we go. And so back there, I heard him go, I can't do this. Now, granted,
You're not.
He's even really.
You're not convinced in how much effort he's actually putting forth.
No, I'm convinced in how much effort he's putting forth.
very
It's
low.
not any, and you could see that because that was not the first time that he had done things like that, and people had rushed over to take care of him. And so I just looked back and I said, "Oh, would you like some assistance?" And he said, "Yes, please." And
Step one.
I mean, I almost
Words.
looked back and the bottle's already there. Like, do this for me.
Well, but the words are good.
The words are great.
I always like to celebrate the good parts.
Right.
Words are good.
Right. Because I'm leading with that. Okay. And now, so I bring it up and I open it, and he's got his hand out ready to reach back. And I went, and he goes, "No, what are you doing?" And I took it down and I put the cap on and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not understand that help has payment?" That was the payment for the help. And I put the cap on and I handed it back, and he had this horrified look on his face as he's looking at the thing going, "I just lost a third of my chocolate milk," because I had taken a really big swig on purpose.
Right.
And so
This is why people call us mean when we talk about parenting interventions.
This is why we get called mean. I get it. But the thing is fast forward a couple months down the road, and because I had told my wife, okay, every time we go out, we need to make sure we stop so that we can have this practice going in, or we need to make sure we have a lot of these bottles in the house so that we can have this practice going in. Because how does his hand get stronger? He has to keep trying it. He has to use it. And so we're doing this, and we're out another time doing an errand, and I hear him in the back, and he's going, he's really cranking.
You are convinced in the effort he's attempting to apply.
Yeah, he's like, oh, and then he goes, "Help, please. I'll pay."
I'll pay.
And I'm like, this is different. Okay. So I reached back and I grabbed a bottle and I popped it open and I went and took a little swig. And then I put the cap on and I started to hand it back, and he goes, "That wasn't payment." And now he also has Asperger's. So
A bit of a rigid view of the
You're gonna
world.
see this.
This
He goes,
is not the same.
"Yeah, no, that wasn't payment. I mean, I asked for help. I have to do payment." And I said, "You know what? I saw that you put a lot of work into opening that up, and I really think you loosened it a lot." And so, I mean, I think the payment should fit the attempt. And you really, really worked on that. And so, don't need as much payment. That was the last time I ever got payment. He would have those bottles, and he'd be working on those. It's a good thing he didn't think about vice grips, but
But if he had, I mean, that'd be good too.
Yeah.
it'd be good too. And so then I would come along, and I'd be like, "Hey, you want some help
Hey,
with
need some
that?"
help?
And he'd be like, "Nope," and I'm not paying. And he'd walk off.
Nice.
Like,
Which is the kind
can
of
I just have a drink?
Sure, right? Which is the kind of independence you want in your children as they grow up.
Right.
So that they are capable, independent adults who can accomplish things for themselves.
Right. And that's kind of that's the opposite definition right there of learned helplessness. The learned helplessness is that they can't accomplish things. They have to have people take care of it for them. It was very similar with his family because, he would say, "I'm hungry." And then people would be like, "Oh, we'll get this and we'll get that and we'll do this and we'll do that." And I'm like, stop. He didn't even say what he was hungry for, and you guys have plates of food ready to go. And so I'm like, oh man, all right, I got to fix this part. And so one day I am, because I love cheese. I am a cheese connoisseur from birth. And I have the block of cheese out and I'm slicing the cheese. And my son walks up and he goes, "That looks good." And I thought, yep, this is going to be that moment. Because, you know, as a parent, I'm always looking for those moments, those windows of opportunities where I can.
Where you can be mean.
No. Insert that beginning part of, hey, let's help you with independence on this.
Right. There's a skill building opportunity.
And you're not going to be cutting the cheese. That's for sure. Okay. So I'm slicing it and he goes, that looks good. And I'm like, okay, this is perfect. And so I began to wrap up the cheese and I said, yes, it does look good. And so I put it in the bag and I went to go put it in the refrigerator. And he goes, wait, where's mine? And I put it away and I came back and I said, oh, did you want some? And he said, well, yes. I said, well, you didn't ask for it. He goes, yes, I did.
He thought he had.
He thought he had.
Yeah.
Because this is what he does
genuine
with his family.
ignorance.
Yeah. He's saying, I said that looks good. When they would get him everything around. And I said, no, you made a statement. You made a statement that looks good. I agreed with your statement. It does look good. Now I'm going to let you know another statement after I'm finished. That was good. And I walked off. And he's like, wait, what just happened?
What just happened? I'm confused.
Right. And so now, fast forward years and years and years, he'll walk through the kitchen as I'm cutting, slicing cheese, and he'll say, hey, will you cut me a piece or two? And I'm like, sure.
Poop.
Crap. This is why the cheese doesn't last very long. Why did I do that? I just created competition for the thing I love. But at the same time, he's in that place where he's like, okay, I know how to be able to take care of this.
Right. And I could see someone saying like, oh, well, but you knew what he wanted and, you know, you should have been whatever. But I just think about like the first time you go to McDonald's, if you just stand there and say, yeah, that looks good. They don't. Okay. And so, yeah, you have to learn those things and so that you can function in the world.
Right. Well, when we go to the doctor, so let's flip it to a different realm. Yeah. We can look like we're in excruciating pain, but the doctor will still say, are you in pain?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know. You could have just heard the greatest joke you have ever heard, and you are still walking in there laughing and enjoying that joke.
Right.
You know, and so someone would say you knew what he wanted, and I'm going to say, no, I don't necessarily know what he wants because he didn't say what he wants. I can make assumptions, and assumptions that I make are going to lead him to learned helplessness.
Right.
I want him to be able to be more independent. You mentioned McDonald's. When my wife and I had Proctor kids and we would go to McDonald's, they would stand there in front of the meal and go, it looks good.
Almost the same thing.
I don't know what to order. Sure. And they'd just be standing there. Yeah. It's our turn at the register, you know, and a lot of people, you know, would just start ordering for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, you have to say what it is that you want or they don't know. You're right. Things look good. And he's like, I don't know what to order. I don't know what to order. And so knowing them, I would then order everything they hated.
You knew them well enough to be like, he wants, you know, chicken McNuggets and a salad.
This and this. And then he would go, well, no, I don't want that. Oh, well, what do you want?
How was I supposed to know that?
Well, you know what I like, but I don't know what you like at this moment.
Right.
It could change. So she knows nothing of what you like. This is all happening at the register.
Yeah.
You know, and she's just kind of looking and there, you see that little smile, you know, and he goes, I want this and this and this.
Interesting.
Right.
So in this case, like this person definitely had the ability.
Yep.
They were kind of making a choice pretty voluntarily.
They were making a choice and they were going down that path of learned helplessness from other homes. You know, because we say this in psychology, medicine, sociology. The human being likes the path of least resistance.
I think most things do.
Yeah.
Water does. I think animals do. I think humans do.
Now, here's the problem. Least resistance leads to learned helplessness.
Right.
And so we, as the human being, have to learn that least resistance is not the best for anything necessarily.
Well, you might make the argument that like growth almost only ever comes through overcoming resistance.
Right.
Right. I mean, like plants grow and it's like difficult for them because they have to expand, they have to push through the dirt, they have to push out more stuff. The muscles in your body only grow by being torn down. You only learn discipline by like bad things happening.
Reptiles, birds, and butterflies, they only come to be through a struggle hatching.
Process.
The egg and then the cocoon for the
what
butterfly.
I wrote in my notes is the struggle is part of the journey to independence. And I think so many times you look at a kid struggling, you just go, oh, well, I'm just going to help them and resolve that problem. But by doing the struggle, they then learn to do that.
Yes.
And
gain
this,
confidence, gain self-esteem.
Yeah, and it reminds me of when I was a kid, my grandpa would take me fishing. And so that was always a fun time. And at first, he put the worm on the hook. He did the whole thing and would just give me the rod. And I would hold it, and then we'd catch a fish, and then I would give it back to him. He would take the fish off the hook. Well, eventually, he told me I needed to put the worm on the hook. So that was kind of gross, and I had to learn, and I struggled, and it was difficult, but eventually I became...
You stabbed yourself with the hook several times.
Exactly, yeah.
You put yourself on the hook.
I became good at it. And so now I could get the fishing pole, I could do the thing, put the worm on the hook, toss it out. When you get the fish, still hand it over back to Grandpa, he takes it off. Well, we never had the moment where he said, okay, today you're going to now get the fish off the hook. He would always do it, and it was like one of those things that only Grandpa can do, and he used to think. And so to this day...
You literally said, that's one of those things only Grandpa can do.
Exactly.
As though that was still factually true.
Right. Well, because to this day, if I were to go fishing, I honestly don't know what I would do if I caught a fish. Because I've never taken a fish off the hook. And so I kind of wish that at some point I had that struggle and he had helped me do that. So I guess I'll have to figure it out sooner or later, but
or never go fishing.
True.
Or never go fishing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Which is what you see in a lot of circumstances when adults, when teenagers, when the learned helplessness really sets in, they just avoid what is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
The human body, weightlifters, bodybuilders, the human body, you put the resistance in there. Excuse me. The human body, you put the different resistance with the different weights and things, and the body responds by getting stronger. And there are certain things that, personal trainers and other people could talk about, doctors could talk about on how the body creates little kind of energy type burning little furnaces in different places, because the burn and the way we feel after lifting weights is because it had to carry energy from other places. And so our entire design is resistance provides growth. Resistance provides strengthening. And at the same time, we see the kid struggling with something like my son's family at times. And it's like, no, we want to make that easier. And I'm like, you're not making this easier. You're making this momentarily easier, kind of. You're basically just, taking care of what you think that he might want or need. Now, he's really smart, and he figured out exactly how to get people to treat him like a king. And that's on that path.
So I would imagine that most people would agree that having patience is a good quality, right? Yeah. You know what the old-timey word for patience is?
What's that?
Long suffering.
Yeah.
You know what the definition of long suffering is? Suffering for a long time. So the only way
through something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're through something that you're not like ecstatic about.
Right.
Yeah. So the only way to gain patience is by suffering for a long time. Oh.
There's a distinct difference that I hear from teachers, and I saw it when I was in the classroom, between grades 3 and 4. Grade 4 is when things get tougher. There's something in the learning that just things get tougher. And so then it becomes kind of a bigger struggle than it has been. And you're hoping that the little struggles and the successes have provided that foundation of confidence. Fourth grade is where a lot of kids with autism and Asperger's, they begin to struggle and want to quit because they've been ahead of their peers, because a lot of that stuff came easy. Now their peers have caught up, and now the struggle for the first big time is there for them. And so that long suffering part, because when you're learning something new, I mean, I remember my timetables. Oh my gosh, I thought that would never end.
You said to beat your head against the wall to get those in there.
Right. And one day things just clicked.
With lots of repetitions, though.
Right.
Yeah. It didn't just click.
It didn't just click, but it
finally
felt
clicked.
like it just clicked. Same thing happened with coloring in the first grade.
Okay.
I could not color in the lines.
Your motor skills weren't having it.
They weren't. I was trying. I had the will to do it, but it was not happening. And it was definitely long suffering, especially when I'm sitting there with some of the other girls. And oh my gosh, you would think that they were professional artists.
And you were struggling to stay inside the lines.
Yes. And they would look at me and go, "What's wrong with you?" You know, and I'm like, "I don't know." And in both those examples, it was a girl who actually helped me to be able to get to that long suffering part.
There was some education and you just had to keep working at it.
It was a peer, yeah. You know, one of the girls there said, "Here, let me help you. I'll come color with you. Let's color together. I'll show you how to do this." And so I go out of, she goes, "No, slow down." You mean slow down? No, slow down.
Move your hand less quickly.
Right. You know, and with the timetables, it was the same thing. You know, one of my peers came over and said, "Here, let me help you with this. Let's work on this together." You know, and so there was some pieces there, which supportiveness, you know, and my dad did the same thing with tying my shoes, only it was not like, "Here, let me help you with that." It's like, "No, you're sitting right here and I'm helping you with this and you're learning this."
That's what I tell my daughters sometimes. Like, "You're not actually." No, literally, the conversation will sometimes be, "You're not helping me." I'm like, "No, I am." This was a full down drag out meltdown the other night. My 4-year-old is potty trained for the most part, and she's sitting on the toilet and she needs to wipe herself. And she said, "Well, I need your help with this." I'm like, "Well, I know that you have the capabilities of doing this, and I can see that you're not done." Right. You know, I'm looking at her going, "There's some spots that are still wet. You need to wipe those." "You're not helping me." I said, "No, I am. I'm teaching you the skill for how to do it yourself." Oh, that was like 10 minutes of screaming.
Right.
Is how that ended. And I'm trying to remember what even like caught her attention. Oh, she lost all of her bedtime stories that night because she was screaming at me. I said, "You've got to knock this off." And yeah, that was some long suffering on her part.
Yeah. You know, and that's the thing, is that once you make it through a big battle like that, a lot of times then it solidifies in your child.
I think I told you the toothbrush story. She had this.
Yes, you did.
She had this argument around like she has like a million toothbrushes on the bathroom counter for whatever reason, and I have my morning toothbrush and my nighttime toothbrush, and she would ask us, "Is it morning or is it nighttime?" She knew. She knew which one it was, and we finally got to because we had this argument with her like every day, and so we finally got to the point. If you ask me that question one more time, because I know you know the answer, I'm taking away all of your toothbrushes except one, and you will use one toothbrush for everything forever. She stopped having that argument with us almost immediately after that. It's like, aha, you had it. Well, like you were talking about those Proctor kids. What do you want from McDonald's? I don't know. Oh, well, he wants the anchovy paste soda.
Right.
Right. And he's like, "What? No, I don't."
Exactly.
Oh, you do know.
I was with a boy one time, a teenager, and he very much had learned helplessness, and he loved to go to the music stores, and I could not, and other skills trainers before me could not get him to just go and be independent. And it was one of those goals that, you know, everybody was trying to work on. And he was very invested in, "No, I'll just follow you around" type piece. And I'm like, "Okay, I got an idea."
Right. Well, how do we?
So we went to the music store, and I'm like, "I'm going to the back of the store, And so I went to the back of the store, and of
Where
course
they-
he's following me.
Where they have polka?
Where they have polka music. They have a polka music section. And so
Spectacular.
I just
Nice.
planted myself in front of the polka music section. And he's looking at the music and he's looking at me and he's like, Eric, what are we doing? I'm like, I'll call him Jimmy. Jimmy, have you ever been introduced to polka music?
Have you met
Polka
the accordion?
Right, is wonderful music. It's just awesome music. You have got to get some tastes and samples of polka music. Right. And so I'm just going on and on and on. And I'm like, take this individual, for instance. I have no idea polka music. I've heard it, but I have no idea who any of these artists are. I'm like, this album, I'm sure, is like one of the best albums out there about polka music, and these people really enjoy it. And so I'm going very generically. And he's just listened to me, and he just looked at me, and he goes, Eric, you're weird. I'm going over to the other side of the store.
Check, please.
And he walked over to the music he really loves.
Which was what you had wanted him to be able to do, and then
Yes.
he hadn't been doing.
He hadn't been able to do it. And so from then on, he never, ever followed me around in stores.
Nice.
He would go find stuff. He would come and find me, and he would be like, have you seen this album? This is great. I wanted to hear this. I found it. And then he'd look at me and go, why aren't you in the polka music session? Okay, that's kind of a problem. But I found something over here. And so that really helped him get out of that mold.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I think that really sums it up. So, hey, if you enjoyed this podcast today, make sure to like and subscribe and leave us a review on wherever you listened or watched it. We're on YouTube. We're on all of the major podcast platforms. And then definitely check out our app in the App Store. Search Empowering Choices Parenting. And we will see you on the next episode.